What up, world? EstablishedRich coming right back at you. Ryan Clark spent more than a decade trying to become exactly what ESPN wanted. And now he is heartbroken because ESPN still treated his ass like an employee.
Again, his protest, it wasn't to fix a system that is broken. It was to try to change a system that works perfectly for the people it was built to work for. And when Doc Rivers is crying, that's fear, that's anger, that's hurt, and everything that he says is 100% true. He said he should just get to be a coach, but that's not just his responsibility. His responsibility is to coach. His responsibility is to parent. His responsibility is to teach, is to educate not only other young African Americans, but educate America about what it is to be a black man. And it's not just what it is to be a black man. I got an opportunity to speak at a town hall here locally.
This has been part of the Ryan Clark experience for a long time. You may agree with his point or disagree with it, but he has never been afraid to bring race into a sports story when he thought it was needed. And I do not believe this is automatically wrong. There are times when race is part of the story and a person shouldn't be afraid to bring it up. But with Ryan Clark, it started feeling like he was so attached to that role that he could not separate the message from the job. He was not just an NFL analyst anymore. He saw himself as somebody carrying something much bigger every time he sat down at that desk. That may explain why losing his job hit him so hard. He didn't feel like ESPN just took away a paycheck. He felt like they took away the place where he was respected, accepted, and able to represent his community. But this is where I got to keep it real with Ryan Clark. You are too old, too experienced, and you have been inside too many professional systems to put your faith in a corporate job. And you have been around too many professional systems to believe any corporate job was permanent. This man played 13 years in the NFL. He has seen teams cut players after they sacrificed their bodies, played hurt, and helped win championships. He know how business works. One day they calling you family, the next day somebody scraping your name off the locker. It may have cameras, makeup rooms, and bigger checks, but at the end of the day, it's still a corporation owned by a much bigger corporation. The people making those decisions are looking at money, ratings, contracts, personalities, and whatever direction they want the network to go in next. They're not sitting around asking who gave most of their heart to the company. Ryan Clark had been with ESPN since 2015, and reports say he was making more than $2 million a year. He had survived other changes at the network, won awards, and became one of the most recognizable faces during NFL coverage. I can understand how all that made him feel secure, but feeling secure at a job and actually owning something is two different things. The desk was ESPN's, the show was ESPN's, the cameras were ESPN's, and when they decided they wanted to move on, they didn't need Ryan Clark to agree with them. That is a hard lesson, but it's a lesson people learn every day. A company can appreciate what you did yesterday and still decide it don't need you tomorrow. And it don't matter how many times they called you family. Your real family is who you go home to after security walks your ass out the building. That's why I think Ryan got too comfortable. He started believing that his performance, his preparation, and the amount of responsibility that they gave him made him different than everybody else who could be replaced. Then ESPN replaced him. Jason McCourty has now been put in Ryan's place on Monday Night Football. And the show is going to keep moving like corporate shows always do. That don't mean that Jason is better than Ryan. It means the machine don't stop just because your feelings got hurt. And that's the part every employee needs to understand. The job may be a big part of your life, but to the job, you are still one part of an operation.
3 years, bro, we never shied away from any topic. Right. We never shied away from tackling anything. We did this year because I knew I couldn't have no beef. I knew I couldn't respond to disrespect, right? I knew, for lack of a better word, I couldn't be too black. What makes me sad is, even in trying to adjust to be at least more of what certain people wanted, they still fired. All I ever wanted to do was be accepted. If you ask me, probably the first Monday of football, when all my friends get to do something we did super special together, yeah, I'd probably change it. I'd probably work harder to be who they wanted me to be.
I don't have a problem with a grown man crying. I don't believe men are supposed to walk around acting like nothing hurts them. Ryan Clark gave ESPN 12 years of his life, and the way it ended was cold. He was informed during a commercial break while he was appearing on NFL Live. When he asked them could he finish the show, they said hell no. That will hurt anybody. But the more Ryan talks about it, the more it sounds like that job had taken too much of his identity. When he says all he ever wanted was to be accepted and wanted, that was bigger than losing a television position. That sounded like a man who needed ESPN to confirm something about himself. And no job should have that much control over a man seeing his own value. Ryan said he changed parts of himself to try to keep this job. He said he pulled back, avoided certain conflicts, and felt like he couldn't be too black, but they still let his ass go. And maybe that's the real wake-up call in all of this. Maybe God got tired of watching Ryan compromise himself for a company that was never gonna love him the way that he loved them. Because once you change who you are just to remain acceptable at a job, you have already given that job too much power. You are now asking somebody else for permission to be comfortable inside your own skin. And the worst part is, there's no perfect version of you that guarantees they're gonna keep you on. You can say less, smile more, avoid beef, attend every meeting, and still get that call. That is why your peace cannot be tied to corporate approval. The people approving you today may not even have their job tomorrow. I have seen people give 40, 50 years to a company, miss birthdays, work holidays, come in sick, and put the job before their own body. Then retirement day comes, somebody brings a cake from the grocery store, they get a watch, a few pictures in the break room, and by Monday, somebody else is sitting at their desk. That's not because their work didn't matter. It is because a job is built to continue after you leave. Ryan seems shocked that ESPN could move on after everything he gave to him. But that's exactly what jobs do. And he is not the first person to go through this. He also would not be the last. There's somebody getting fired today from a place they thought they would retire from. The difference is that person may not have a successful podcast, more media opportunities, or millions of dollars they've already earned. They may have to leave the parking lot and immediately figure out how the car note gonna get paid. They don't have time to record a 2-hour podcast about how the company made them feel. They have to update their resume, call somebody about work, and make sure their children still gonna have a Christmas. That don't mean Ryan's feelings are fake. It just means his perspective needs some work. He lost a great job, but he didn't lose his ability to provide. Based on his reported salary and the fact that ESPN still owe him money, his situation is not the same as somebody who don't know how they're gonna pay rent. At some point, he has to stop talking like ESPN took his whole life. They took a position, and the position was important, but it was never supposed to be the source of his entire identity. Ryan still has the pivot, he still has his name, his experience, his family, and an audience that still wants to hear him speak. He ain't starting over from nothing. He is starting over from a position most people would pray to be in. So I'm gonna take y'all out like this. Ryan Clark has every right to be hurt by how ESPN let him go. And there's nothing wrong with being honest about that pain. But the need for crying and the need to keep explaining how much you changed makes it sound like ESPN had become too important in your sense of self. A job can pay you, promote you, celebrate you, and still fire you. That don't make the job evil. It makes it a job. The problem starts when you expect that job to love your ass. The problem starts when you expect that job to love you back. A corporation don't have a heart. So stop handing it yours and then acting shocked when they don't know what to do with. Maybe he needed to lose the desk to realize he still has a voice. And maybe he needed to stop trying to become what executives wanted so he could finally build something where he don't have to ask for permission to be himself. But first, he has to get out of the mindset that this firing ended something more important than it actually did. People get fired every day, and many of them would love to land with a platform, millions of dollars, and a name that Ryan Clark has. He can feel it, he can cry about it, he can learn from it. But then he has to wipe his face, thank God his family is still provided for, and move on. Because ESPN has already moved forward. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.